Good afternoon, folks. My name is Paul Hanna. We'll just give it another wee minute until more people come into this webinar. Can you all hear me okay? Could someone just do a wee note into the chat? And also, can you hear me and see the slides? Okay, we'll just give it another minute. Thank you very much.
For context, Paul, the quality of the attendees who can all hear, so the sound is working just fine.
No bother, thank you. Okay, folks, we'll begin to start this webinar. This is a webinar of understanding the BS 99001 standard, which is reasonably new, came out in 2022. So there's a wee bit about NQA, what we do, and where we are around the world. So today, the webinar agenda, what we're going to try to do is introduce what the BS 99001 standard is and the understanding of what it's meant to imply, why another standard, an overview of the requirements of the standard, potential benefits of the BS 99001, and what the next steps are for the standard. And hopefully, if we have time, we'll do questions and answers. You'll see there's a wee question box if you want to put them in. I won't look at the questions until the end of the webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to answer some of the questions. If there's anything we can't answer or not sure about, we'll come back to you. We'll release it on the blog. A wee bit about me. I'm a regional assessor for NQA. Been working with NQA since 2017, primarily in 9, 14, and 45, but also cover a multitude of other standards. Prior to NQA, I worked heavily in construction, so I'm sort of poacher turned gamekeeper when it comes to looking after the standards. Okay, so introduction. So BS 99001 2022 is a sector-specific British standard designed to strengthen quality management within the built environment. It covers design, construction, civil engineering, infrastructure, and related services. 99001 doesn't replace ISO 9001, which many organisations already have. It's more meant to enhance and it tailors the needs of the construction sector. It's a sort of like a bolt-on to 9001. The standard is applicable to a wide range of organisations, from main contractors to design consultants to specialist subcontractors and suppliers. Basically anybody who's involved in delivering or supporting the built environment projects. Key benefits: they intend a stronger quality assurance through the life cycle of complete complex projects. There's an emphasis on sustainability and risk-based thinking, and it's improved stakeholders' engagement, especially across the supply chain. These will be common trends that you'll see as we go through this. So what's the need for a new standard? So ISO 9001, it's been around for 30 odd years. It's been the go-to management system across a lot of industries. It's recognised globally and provides a solid structure for managing processes to ensure continuing improvement. However, its generic nature is both a strength and it's also a limitation. But it's designed to be applicable across all sectors: manufacturing, services, healthcare, etc. And it means that it doesn't offer specific guidance for sectors with unique characteristics like construction. When we talk about the built environment, it's so very complex. There's high risk activities, lots of stakeholders, bespoke deliverables. ISO 9001 was written primarily for organisations with wide process controls in mind. But in construction, each project is like its own wee organisation. You know, you have its own risks, your own teams, deliverables, and life cycle. So while 9001 provides a good backbone, 99001 provides some reinforcement to this. Where ISO 9001 falls short in the built environment, you know, we have different phases in construction, from concept to design through procurement, construction handover, occupation, you know, and even eventually decommissioning. 9001 doesn't explicitly guide you how to manage or assure quality across these project stages. It tells you to plan, monitor, and improve the processes, but it doesn't offer roadmaps for dealing with multi-phase, multi-stakeholder environments. There's a wee lack of clarity around who's responsible and how responsibilities are allocated and how things are documented. at around each phase, and then how change controls happen. As a result, organisations either underuse 90,000 or 9001 or develop their own bolt-on system, creating inconsistency across the sector. 99,001 has sort of tried to design to sort of bridge this gap. So, introducing BS 99,001 2022. It was specifically launched to bridge the gap between 9001's broad framework and the specific quality challenges of the built environment. It's important to note that BS 99,001 is not a replacement for 9001. You still have to meet the ISO requirements, but BS 99,001 adds a layer of sector-specific expectation to enhance how 9001 is applied. It was created by experts across the construction supply chain, from engineers, architects, designers, contractors, and regulators, all contributing to a document that now hopefully reflects how quality should be managed in real-life projects. The scope includes the entire life cycle and supply chain, not just site operatives, but also includes designers, tradespeople, specialist contractors, production manufacturers, and consultants. So why does it matter? Well, hopefully it's going to improve stability, safety, and durability, promotes consistent quality across the sector, builds shared responsibility into the process, and aims to raise industry standards. Quality in construction isn't just about following drawings and getting buildings signed off. It's about whether we build it safe, it's durable, and it's fit for purpose. BS 99,001 emphasizes these three terms, sustainability, safety, and durability, and you'll see this coming up quite regularly throughout this presentation. It aims to raise the quality baseline across the industry by ensuring that each part of the supply chain understands and fulfills their responsibilities. It helps embed consistent approach to governance, quality planning, and risk control. This is especially valuable for clients or tier 1 contractors who want to ensure alignment through project teams and their subcontractors. Like it or not, we all live in a post-Grenfell context, world. So this 99,001 had influence because of what came out of Grenfell. It's responding to industry failings on Grenfell. It supports the Building Safety Act compliance, encourages traceability and accountability. It become mandatory for high-risk buildings and clients. One of the key findings from the Grenfell Tower inquiry was the lack of oversight and traceability and accountability across all supply chains. 99,001 was developed in the context which to incorporate many of the quality principles linked with the Building Safety Act, including traceability, decision-making, competency requirements, and clear documentation. There's also been recently a push from government for high-risk buildings such as hospitals and schools and high-rises to meet more robust standards for building. 99,001 could soon possibly become a minimum requirement for projects in these categories, especially for principal contractors or duty holders. So it's actually quite flexible in its application. It can be scalable for large projects or small projects. One of the biggest concerns around any new standard is, will this be too much for us? But 99,001 is built with this scalability in mind. It focuses on processes, and it's not meant to be an admin burden. Whether you're a large contractor running multiple frameworks or a specialist subcontractor working on a single project, the standard can be applied accordingly. It doesn't require full company certification. You can look at it and decide, instead of rolling it out across the entire organization, look at it instead of, we look at a major project or look at a design management function within the business. This makes it accessible and useful without overloading the business with bureaucracy. The main focus is driving quality into the process and not adding red tape. So who will benefit? It should be useful for clients, designers, contractors, and trades. It's not only just for a quality manager, it should be driven right throughout the business. It supports collaboration and accountability, and it helps define governance and roles clearly. The standard isn't just about, for the quality management department. It's designed to help everybody who's involved in delivering a project, from procurement to site to boardroom. It helps to understand the roles to ensure outcomes meet requirements. Clients can use it to set up quality expectations and contracts. Designers can align CDM and safety and principal designs. Contractors can use it to manage interfaces and handovers. Suppliers can use it to understand what's expected from their products and documentation. It's about embedding quality from the top down and bottom up. The collaborative approach, it sort of encourages this golden thread of information which everybody has access for the information and need to deliver their part for the project safely and correctly. So aligning future construction goals, it's hopefully going to support net zero and social value goals, encourage sustainability project planning, integrate quality with ESG objectives, builds resilience across assets and delivery, and clients are regularly increasing expecting projects to be delivered sustainable, inclusive and net zero outcomes. 99,001 is trying to encourage organisations to look at their environmental impact, how they support community value, and how their quality system can contribute to long-term resilience. By linking project quality with environmental, social and governance performance priorities, 99,001 should help organisations stay ahead of regulatory and commercial trends. This is especially useful for public sector or framework tendering, where social and sustainability value are now very highly scored. The practical framework for the supply chain. So what it's doing here, it sets expectations for products and services. It strengthens supplier quality assurance, helps manage risk, defects and rework, and drives better service and compliance. It's 99,001 will hopefully help close the gap that happens between different interfaces between clients and contractors and subcontractors and suppliers and installers. You know, it enables project teams to manage suppliers better, ensuring that what's specified is what's delivered and what's delivered is installed correctly. And hopefully this will reduce risks of defects, improve record keeping, and ultimately reduce costs and rework and disputes. It makes the supply chain more reliable and more accountable, which benefits everybody on any type of project you undertake. We'll just go on to an overview. So the overview is the standard is written around Annex SL again, so it's very, very similar. A lot of people maybe on this call will know the way of Annex SL is structured. Clause 4 deals with the context of interested parties. So BS 99,001 is asking us to understand the full project context. This includes all internal and external factors that could affect project outcomes. You know, under 99,001, they're asking you to look at the sustainability commitments, such as reducing environmental impacts, supporting social and economic sustainability, and progressing towards net zero emissions. It's asking you to identify interested parties, but these interested parties must be anybody or everyone who's a stake in the project, or anybody who could influence or be impacted on the project. These could be local communities, investors and funders. It could be media influence, public perception, project delivery teams. You've also got sustainable and social value. Sustainable and social value. It's not just about identifying the stakeholders. You also need to look at understanding how decisions affect sustainability, deliver social value into the community, you know, jobs, community benefits, local engagement, and build these into primary planning and delivery. Under ISO or BS 99,001, all of this must be properly documented, such as stakeholder registers, sustainability goals, what you're trying to achieve, risk assessments, community engagement records, environmental performance data. All records has to be clear, version controlled, and regularly reviewed and updated throughout the project. Scope as well. Shall also meet the requirements provided in this British standard, if applicable, within the determined scope of the QMS. So it's then your QMS scope should be clearly defined and what's included. Ensured BS 99,001 requirements are applied. There's a big emphasis on strong information of quality management. Then management systems and processes, there's no real additional requirements compared to 9001, but there is a note saying the quality of information is key to quality management systems for built environment sector, as it is characterized by long activity life cycles, organization systems complexity, and reliance on data. If data is not the required quality, it leads to compromised decision and undermines quality management system. So it's just not about, you know, compliance, it's about better decision making, reducing risks, and stronger long-term value in complex projects. Leadership. Leadership's a big important part of this. It's including, you know, quality management, top management responsibilities, management taking accountable for the management and delivery of quality in projects, ensuring quality management is promoted right through all levels and communicated to the supply chain. and ensuring people in quality management roles are competent to support performance. Their roles impartial and they're independent. Quality should be promoted as a core business value, not just a box ticking exercise. Leadership sets the tone for quality culture. Under BS 99,001, it's clear ownership is, of quality starts from the top. When the leadership is visible, proactive and supportive, it empowers entire project teams and supply teams to deliver more and better and consistent outcomes. There's a big focus on customer responsibility. It's one of the core principles of BS 99,001. Needs and expectation throughout the project lifecycle. It's essential that the products and service conform with specified requirements. There's a balancing between quality and time and cost. BS 99,001 makes it clear quality should never be sacrificed for the sake of delivering a project faster or cheaper. True customer focus means more than just client satisfaction at the end. It's about delivering the right outcomes at the right quality every step of the way. It's embedding this mindset to both leadership and supply chain organizations. And, so we are constantly meeting or exceeding expectations, not just delivering projects, but delivering value. Policy, no real additional requirement in this, but it's saying that the organization shall communicate the quality policy to all relevant interested parties in the project supply chains to ensure alignment with levels of projects within the organization is involved in plans or plans to be involved in. Roles and responsibilities. Again, not a lot of change. There's a wee bit of change in the definitions, some of the definitions. Top management shall ensure that a competent person is appointed as the management system representative with oversight on quality projects. The management representative shall have the responsibility and authority to oversight of the requirements given in 5.21 and 5.22, establishing and communicating the quality policy on a project base. The representative shall be supported to ensure the quality management of data is efficient, and top management shall clearly define governance and supporting arrangements. What is top management must define who is the management system representative, who they report to, if they clarify their authority over the project and supply chain, and provide support systems and resources. The MSR must be competent, supported, and authorised to ensure consistent, measurable quality throughout the project lifecycle. So specific roles and responsibilities. Top management shall ensure roles and responsibilities and authorities are related to the project are identified and defined in accordance with the nature and complexity of the project. Top management shall ensure the management representative has organizational freedom, unrestricted access to the project leadership to resolve project quality issues, and shall ensure that management representative has oversight for quality, has authority to pause operations in order for quality issues to be addressed. What it's asking to do is top management to take responsibility defining the roles, responsibilities to each project. They must reflect the nature and the complexity of the project. Larger, more complex projects demand more robust quality structures. Top management must give empowerment to the MSR. He needs to have organizational freedom. They must be able to operate independently of commercial or delivery pressures and have unrestricted access to project leadership. Must be able to raise concerns or escalate quality issues directly without any barriers. They're also given the authority to intervene. Critically, with a management representative must have the authority to pause or stop operations where they think there's going to be a quality issue. BS 99,001 makes it clear that quality is a leadership issue, and leaders must ensure that they've got the right people and that they have the right authority to protect it. So planning, again, nothing changes with the same quality, risk and opportunities related to projects, the process of construction and subsequent use of the asset, the organization as a whole, society, the economy and the environment. They also should maintain document information on the potential impact on the organization of product-related risks and processes and actions needed to address risk and opportunities, and shall ensure plans are reviewed and updated as necessary. What 99,001 is trying to do is taking a broader look when planning for quality. You're trying to identify and evaluate risks and opportunities related to specific project and its deliverables, the construction process and subsequent use of the asset, and the wider organization, how projects affect strategic outcomes, and broader impacts on society and economy and the environment. The information has to be documented, potential impacts of project-related risks on the business. These need to be recorded. Process plans and actions need to be put in place to address them and ensure that decision-making is informed, transparent, and it is auditable. When planning under 99,001 is more about the schedules and budgets. It's more than schedules and budgets. It's about managing uncertainty and maximize positive outcomes. By embedding risk and opportunity thinking into project planning, organizations can improve resilience, protect value, and deliver better quality outcomes across the asset's life cycle. Apart from planning under BS 99,001, organizations must also establish quality objectives for each project. The objectives must also reflect social commitments, community engagement, diversity of targets, local employment. There should be economic commitments, value for money, long-term operational savings, and environmental commitments, carbon reduction, waste minimization, and net zero alignment. This ensures quality planning supports broader business and social goals. When quality objectives are aligned with the contractual, social, economic, and environmental priorities, they're informed by scope, time, cost, and life cycle, become very powerful tools, making sure a project is successful. So change. So changes. So shall assess the need to change the QMS related projects. So during any construction project, changes will arise due to contractual updates, shift in project scope, budget, and timeline. So they're asking you to make sure that you assess these. Shall establish and implement processes to ensure change does not conflict with the QMS. So any proposed changes, need to be evaluated to ensure that there's no conflict. Shall ensure changes are agreed by and communicated to all relevant interested parties, and assess the impact of change and risk opportunities associated actions. So all relevant interested parties, included internal teams, contractors, clients, and regulars, they must be informed of any changes and have the opportunity also to review and agree before any implementation. Moving on to people, competency for the delivery, the project delivery. 99,001 emphasised that people must be competent to perform their role and responsibility, and be the roles they need to be formally assigned to them. This is people such as site managers, quality managers. Competency includes not just qualifications, but it's also, does the person have relevant experience? Are they undergoing training? Do they understand the complex project needs? Do they understand standards and expectations? Leadership has to ensure clear role definition and that individuals are supported to perform these effectively. Moving on to infrastructure. So you have physical and digital support. Organizations must determine, provide, and maintain the infrastructure required to achieve project objectives on and off site. This includes physical infrastructure, the tools, the equipment, the site facilities, material handling systems. You've digital infrastructure, you've construction with BIM platforms, data management tools, communication systems, quality tracking software. The infrastructure also must be supported, sustainability goals, for example, efficient site setup, use of renewable energy, or digital tools to reduce waste and to stop rework. Environment and the operational process. This is about ethical behaviour. Organisations are required to promote ethical behaviour and social responsibility, both internally and throughout the supply chain. So then, monitoring and resource. Under 99,001, organisations must ensure that those responsible for verifying and conforming the products and services are fit for purpose. So this applies for inspectors, auditors, supervisors, quality engineers. The persons must be competent, must have the appropriate qualifications, training and experience, and competency should be assessed regularly and supported with all ongoing development opportunities. They're required to demonstrate that they definitely, required behaviours. They need to have technical knowledge, but alone, this is not alone. Individuals need to demonstrate that they can act with integrity, attention to detail, consistency, and a commitment to quality under real project conditions. Quality as critical roles must be resourced properly and scheduled in advance. You need to have the necessary capacity. Have to have necessary authority. The personnel must be empowered to make decisions, raise concerns, even stop work or escalate issues when non-conformists are identified. They need to be impartial and free from conflicts of interest, but must act independently and of commercial and delivery pressures. Oh, sorry. So measurable and traceability is another part of the standard. It shall ensure that equipment is calibrated and aligned, shall maintain document information of equipment, its type, its unique identification, location, calibration method, frequency, and acceptance criteria. There also needs to be a process for recall of equipment requiring calibration and verification. And then anything that's sort of out of calibration, you have to assess the risk. Will it have an impact if something goes wrong? Do we need to look at rework because of it? Then you've knowledge. It has to capture, analyze, and learn from the project knowledge. Lessons learned should be shared throughout the organization and relevant interested parties. Information related to lessons learned should be uniquely identified and dated, and shall establish a process to ensure it can access knowledge from professional bodies and other trusted sources. So it's requiring literally you to capture, analyze, and document, and make sure you share the information. Coupled with the accessing external expertise, this ensures organization can learn and adapt and improve over time, which is key sort of to sustainable and high quality project delivery. So competency, under 99,001, it's not just about skill, it's about empowering people with the right authority and ensuring that everyone involved is capable and they're also accountable. Extended the expectations to external providers support consistent quality across all project contributors. So it's not just about the company, it's about getting into your supply chain and going further down the line. One of the things that it's also trying to do is it means main contractors have to have control of suppliers or subcontractors, but also then subcontractors who subcontract out work and further down the line. So it's about this control. Also looking at awareness, it has contribution to product and service conformity, contribution to product safety, contribution to social, economic, and environmental commitments, and the contribution to the importance of ethical behaviour. Everyone involved in the project must be aware of how their role impacts on product and service conformity. This awareness extends to product safety. Everyone must, have the responsibility for preventing hazards and failures that could impact the users or operators. 99,001 also emphasised the importance of understanding how individual actions contribute to social commitments such as community well-being and inclusion, economic commitments like cost effectiveness, long-term value, environmental commitments including sustainability and progress towards net zero. We've also ethical behaviour, upholding integrity, avoiding conflicts of interest, complying with laws and organisations' codes of conduct. Raising awareness ensures that all personnel understand their impact on safety, quality and sustainability. They're motivated and act responsibly and ethically. It builds on a culture where everybody's aligned to the organisation's goals and values. Communication under 99,001 requires organisations to establish formal process to enable effective communication across all project functions. This includes ensuring that everybody from design teams to on-site workers to supply chain partners receive timely and relevant information. New team members, contractors and visitors should quickly understand project objectives, the quality expectations, health and safety requirements, and the specific roles and responsibilities. Knowledge sharing, communication is not just about instruction, it's also about sharing knowledge and lessons learned, which will promote continuous improvement and help avoid repeating mistakes, and how communicated changes. Documented information, very similar to 9001 as well, but processed to ensure that it's aware of current statutory and regulatory requirements relating to document information. Creating and updating document information shall be documented. Suitable medium to whether digital or physical storage, suitable approval methods, change communicated to relevant parties using current document information, and reasons why for retention and disposition of the information. So when you move on to operation planning control, it shall determine sequence and activities of how these interact and ensure maintain the integrity of products, services, and assets, considering risk and opportunities. You'll see this, you mightn't be able to read this, but just the organisation should take into account and give you some examples. Potential impacts of physical, economic and social environment, taking into account sustainability commitments, complexity of design, ease of inspection, service and maintenance. It talks about physical access throughout the project life cycle. It talks about sustainability of the product and the finished asset. So requirements for products and services. The organizations consider a broad range of factors impacting product and service requirements, including political, economical, environmental, social, technological. In the context, understanding these external factors helps to align project goals with broader society and market trends. Capability and capacity, accesses both the organization's supply chain's ability to deliver the required products and services on time and to what is the expected quality. Safety requirements, required relate to fire safety, structural safety, and other regulatory standards. These all must be incorporated in to ensure compliance and safety. You've digital compatibility, you consider digital tools, platforms, and data management processes needed to support project delivery and quality management. Supply chain capacity and capability. You need to evaluate your supply chain skills, resources. Are they reliable to support the project demands? You look at design requirements. Ensure the design specification and client expectations are fully captured here and communicated. You look at innovation. So take into account opportunities for innovation that can improve quality, efficiency, and sustainability. Information security. Address requirements relating to protecting sensitive data and complying with information security standards. Looking at feedback mechanisms, incorporating feedback from clients, users, and other stakeholders to refine and improve product and services delivery. In summary, managing requirements effectively means looking beyond just the technical specifications. Organizations now must consider a wide spectrum of internal and external factors to ensure product or service meet quality, safety, sustainable, and clients' expectations. So going on, it also should consider customer requirements, understanding what the customer expects and needs, contractual requirements, reviewing all the contractual terms to ensure commitment and obligations are clear, project lifecycle stages. It's lesson to consider distinct phases of a project and how requirements may evolve at each stage. It could be partial completion, partial handovers. Looking at life cycle of the asset, accounting for long-term use, maintenance, and sustainability of the asset being delivered. It's the buildability of the actual asset, ensuring design requirements are supported and practical and efficient construction. Intended use and limitations. Understanding how the product or asset will be used, including any constraints or restrictions. Look at planned and foreseeable changes in statutory or regulatory requirements. It's asking you sort of to anticipate any upcoming legal or regulatory changes that might impact the project, and implications of change to previous express requirements. Access and how modifications to initial requirements affect scope, design, cost, or timelines. The other thing it says that organizations shall maintain documented information of communication efforts to resolve conflict or different requirements. Decisions reached regarding any of these changes and clarifications. So changes to requirements define change management processes, change traceability and authorization, change competence, change to risks and opportunities. And again, this all has to be documented, any change in the requirements. So design and development. Design is a big consideration under 99,001. So it says shall include processes at organization or project level, taking into account specific requirements for each of the projects. So it's asking you to look at life cycle considerations. The design process must consider the entire life cycle of the asset, including construction, operation, maintenance, decommission, or even repurposing. This helps ensure suitability of cost effectiveness and long-term performance of the asset. Design must ensure compatibility with existing systems, assets, and infrastructure. Making sure that you're working the same type of materials, same type of trying to think here of the word, but the same type of technology has been used throughout. The organisation should evaluate risk related to technology or components becoming obsolete. So there's no point in putting something in that's going to be going out of date within 6 months. Product safety, the design and development process must ensure compliance with all safety standards and regulations. It has to sort of try to look at reducing hazards for users and operators. CDM, for example, is a prime example where we need to look at different levels and whose roles and responsibility. Robust design development processes that consider project specifics and life cycle factors are essential for delivering safe, compatible, and sustainable assets. This structured approach hopefully will support quality, compliance, and long-term value within the industry. Externally provided processes, products, and services. So it's criteria for identifying approval and reapproval. So operations, organizations must establish clear criteria for identifying suppliers, external providers, approving them initially, reapproving them, and regularly ensuring they're suitable for the work. Verification that the requirements have been met. This needs to include inspections, audits, testing, certification reviews. Responsibility and authorities. So these need to be clearly defined. Who within the organisation has responsibility and authority to approve suppliers, managing suppliers' performance, making decisions about reapproval or corrective actions. It has to be maintained document information. It needs to be accurate and up to date on suppliers' approvals, performance evaluations, changes in approval status, even actions taken when requirements aren't met. One of the things in construction, you might not be able to use your own preferred providers. Client might be using preferred providers. And if the client have preferred providers or mandate suppliers, organizations should have a process to evaluate these providers, integrate them into the project supply chain appropriately, ensure they comply with quality and project requirements. Should be regular performance reviews. They should be conducted to monitor quality of product and service delivered. Is it on time? Is the provider responsive? Are they compliant with contractual obligations? And any changes in supplier's approval status must be managed with a formal process. If a supplier fails to meet the requirements, corrective actions must be promptly implemented, which may include additional training, increased monitoring, even suspension or removal from an approved list. Externally controls through the supply chain. This is sort of helped prevent issues caused by weak links or non-conformance deeper into the supply chain. This is where you need to evaluate your provider to make sure they're not subcontracting out to subcontractors. You need to maintain document information of approval criteria. So you're looking at controls required for each supply chain, approval criteria for the external providers and suppliers, defining roles, responsibilities within the supply chain. This must be clearly defined for each part of the supply chain. Clear definition helps to avoid gaps and overlaps of accountability. Controls for each project lifecycle at every stage. Appropriate controls should be defined and applied at every stage of the project lifecycle, from design, procurement, through to construction and handover. Document information must be kept to enable recall of defect products or services, replacement or rework. If quality issues arise, the traceability is essential for managing quality incidents efficiently. And you have to delegate verification activities. If verification tasks are delegated to external providers or subcontractors, they must have a clear scope of the requirements, that these delegated activities must be clearly defined and documented. Information for external providers. So you're talking about providing relevant technical data. This includes drawings, specifications, standards, and other technical documentation. You need to share out design and development controls. Ensure providers understand what their outputs fit into the overall design of the quality framework. You need to have clear communication with any special requirements, critical processes, and key characteristics that impact product and service quality. You need to provide detailed information of what's required in testing, inspection, and verification processes. There's an emphasis on commitments to social, economic, and environmental sustainability in line with what the project and organisation values are. excuse me, you need to ensure external providers are informed about health and safety and well-being requirements for their workers. Protecting people through the supply chain is a critical responsibility. Safety must be clearly prioritised in all communications. Providers must be made aware of the safety standards, regulations, and expectations to prevent accidents and liabilities. So control of products, production and service provision, this is establishing criteria for test and inspection. You're looking at workmanship, changes, accountabilities, control of critical processes, characteristics, including security, people, equipment, assets, information. Effective control of production and service provision safeguards quality, safety and compliance. By having the processes for inspection, and accountability and traceability may prevent issues before they impact the project. There needs to be an ID and traceability, looking at the risks and what happens if something gets lost or obscured. So property belong to customer and external providers. So you need to have a method to use and preserve products and constituent parts. You have storage areas, access routes, type of frequency and accessibility, identification and traceability marks. This is talking about materials, for example. Proper preservation and control of customers and external provided property is essential, to maintain the trust issue or preventing damage, and loss to the actual product. Post-delivery activities. So you shall consider collection and analysis of operational data that meet predetermined information requirements. You shall take appropriate action when issues are detected post-delivery. Documented information to ensure customer has up-to-date and accurate information on handover. Shall ensure continued access to relevant information post-delivery to include what has been supplied and safely maintained an operation of what has been supplied. Post-delivery activities focus on monitoring, responding to issues, and ensuring customers are supported with accurate information, all of which is critical to sustaining asset value, making it safe, and clients' trust beyond the project completion. Post-delivery activities and handover. So you shall maintain relevant document information relating to changes made throughout the life cycle of the project. This is sort of getting within the construction industry, looking at O&M manuals. You're going to agree requirements, design, material specification, handover of assets, facilities managers, the facilities manager, and you're going to define the criteria of a handover, including phased handovers. What's asked for is organisations should maintain comprehensive documented information relating to any changes that are made throughout the project lifecycle. This includes design changes, material specifications, records of handover of assets or facilities managers. Clear criteria of handover must be defined, including provision for phased handovers if applicable, bringing assets into operations, maintenance responsibilities, insurance requirements, and in post-delivery activities such as commissioning and operational use instructions. If this is in place, it supports a smooth transition. It'll reduce risk associated with asset commissioning and operations too as well. So control of non-conforming outputs. Processes shall include defining roles and responsibilities, controlling the effect on process, products and services, and where the root cause is identified as design, the issue shall be reported to the relevant design team. Non-conforming notification of concessions or design changes, must be notified to the relevant people. Performance evaluation. Performance evaluation must cover all aspects of the organisation, including individual projects. It's talking about plans and testing and inspection to verify quality compliance. It's looking at competence of the personnel involved in projects and processes. It's looking at schedules, adherence to timelines and milestones. It's looking at budgets, controlling cost management. It's looking at project performance against defined objectives and deliverables. These, examples, they highlight crucial indicators of the impact of a project on an organization's success. Ongoing analysis and evaluation drive the organization forward, towards better outcomes. Considering satisfaction and life cycle aspects can ensure improvements, that are comprehensive and they're sustainable. Again, I'm conscious of time here, but internal audits, again, very similar to what we have already in 9001. It should be effective internal audit system, for verifying compliance, managing risk, driving continual improvement, covering projects within risk-based audits, and having competent auditors, ensuring robust quality oversight. Management review, again, incorporating reporting, evaluating requirements, incorporating review of key interfaces to interested parties, and are consistent with social, economic, and environmental commitments. So inputs, management review, it's considered trends in time, cost, and quality, track how the core projects are performing over time to identify improvements and issues. You have to review resource ability. Again, these are all things that are come up with 9, but it also includes social, economic, and environmental impacts, evaluate how projects and organizational activities are aligning. Outputs in the management review, review outcomes, decisions, and actions, and these must be communicated to relevant interested parties. The management review should be data driven, to make informed decisions. So improvement, effective improvement relies on continuous, consistent, and sustainable actions informed by stakeholder collaboration. Embedding OFIs throughout the project lifecycle drives quality and value. Again, what it's saying is if you have issues, bring them to the fore, talk about them, get them in the open, and learn from the lessons. Non-conformance, again, and corrective actions. This is very similar to 9. Looking at different types of non-conformance, you're guiding personnel, collaborating with stakeholders, and documented actions to ensure robust handling of non-conformances. They need to be documented as well and include effectiveness for the corrective action. Improvement, continuous improvement is dynamic life cycle. It's activity. It's keeping stakeholders informed, and it fosters collaborative and shared success. I appreciate that was a very quick run through of some of the clauses, but sort of in summary here, what it's asking for is under context. It's asking the organization to go on beyond a generic context analysis. It's, you're looking at the type of project you're delivering, whether it be housing, healthcare, infrastructure, the risk category of the asset, particularly for high-rise or complex buildings under the Building Safety Act. You're looking at your carbon performance goals. And this ties into UK net zero targets. You're looking at the capacity and competency of the supply chain to ensure that the quality system is not just organizational wide, but it's project wide. Looking at leadership, leadership has to step up under BS 99001. You must now formally appoint quality and building safety representatives, someone who's a responsible person, someone with the right authority and is accountable. Leaders need to be demonstrate oversight of this, the likes of CDM, the golden thread we mentioned. It's about leadership. No longer, it's not just about signing off the manual, it's about being visible and responsible for the quality and safety outcomes. When you're looking at planning, project, and quality strategy, it needs to be clear, it needs to be structured, and it links with your quality objectives. It needs to be digital requirements, the likes of BIM, your common data environment protocols. Talk about quality gateways. So decision pointings for freezing, so you might have a design freeze or a start on site, or even when you get the handover. It's support in ISO 9001 is quite broad, things like training, infrastructure, and documentation, whereas BS 99001 narrows it down and specific competency and duty holders. Clause 8, operation. So this is where BS, the British standards sort of takes on its own. It's about managing, coordinating design disciplines to prevent clashes or gaps. It's managing off-site manufacturing, modern methods of construction. It's about execution of the works on site with clear installation sign-off. It's about a structured handover process. Ideally, quality is not left to the end of the job; it should be built in at every stage. Under performance evaluation, it's about evaluation of real-time data. How many times do we get it right first time? How much is reworked? Are the clients actually satisfied? How do we know they are? How are we tracking and reporting carbon performance? 99001 also introduces stage gate quality reviews. So you're looking at checkpoints where you can pause, review quality outcomes, prevent defects, and from carrying forward. Then under 10, improvement, you must keep a register of sort of lessons learned. and you need to share these across all projects and even include in your supply chain. This makes it easier to avoid repeated mistakes. And it's not just about recording NCRs or CAPs for audit processes, about learning and sharing. So that's a wee overview of what the standard is, sort of high level overview of what the standard is sort of looking at. So potential benefits, again, we've said 9001 can be considered generic. 99001 is there to clarify some of the specific requirements of 9001 for parties involved in the built environment. It further supports commitment, to superior level of service. The additional requirements provided by 99001 will assist key personnel to focus on delivery of quality service and product that will align with the expectation of empowered key roles within projects to make critical decisions and help prevent harm, prevent loss, and protect long-term interests and reputations. The ultimate goal of it is to raise the level of quality in the sector. And it's all about quality in this context, taking the mean more, covering compliance, looking at risk, protecting business and lives. So it's not just a management system, a quality management system that's looking at environmental impacts, it's looking at health and safety impacts. So next steps, a lot of construction companies that I would go into, they have some of these things in place. What I'd advise you review your current system and arrangements, go beyond quality and factor in sustainability for health and safety, information management and design process. Consider, bring it into the management review, opportunities for improvement process. It focuses on leadership, project governance, disciplines and project interface arrangements. Look at performance related activities and mechanism to consider 99001. Look at common terms of reference for risk management. It's a multidisciplinary review of the requirements against accident arrangements. And the approach for 99001 is not about more paperwork, but it's about increasing efficiencies. So final thoughts, 99001 doesn't replace ISO 9001, it builds on it. It aims to help UK organisations in the built environment and health, quality, safety and sustainability, and they align more closely with legislative and stakeholder expectation in a post-Grenfell world. Adoption of 99001 may become a requirement, for high-risk buildings projects, government frameworks, etc. Making it both proactive and strategic move for organisation, to commit to the actions. Folks, that is the end of the webinar. Have we got any? I know it was a lot to take in, but these slides will be available, and also this has been recorded. Are there any questions?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions in the chat, Paul. Do you want me to read them out, or do you want to have a look at them yourself? It's up to you.
Go ahead.
Perfect. I think one from Jonathan Varney. He says, that's two questions for Jonathan Varney, but I'll read the first one. What is the take-up of the certification of the standard? Is there commitment across the built environment to implement these requirements?
99001 is a reasonably new British standard. It came out in 2022. It is beginning to get traction, especially from government bodies. I see it being asked for as part of PQQs, ITTs, a large framework. I've seen it actually on a large framework for healthcare. It's one of these things that, I think it's going to be government driven. A lot of construction companies are doing I'll caveat that some of the construction companies I go into, they are well on the way to getting 99001 already because of the bolt-ons they're adding to their own 9001. They're going over and above what 9001 is asking for. So hopefully that answers the question. But again,
yeah,
I think it's going to be government driven, to be honest.
Perfect. I hope that answers your question, Jonathan. And the second question from Jonathan is, with the three main ISO standards in the process of being updated, is there a plan to align the standard to the new ISO 9001, which is due to be released? I believe it will be released next year in September, hopefully.
That's the $100 million question. Because 9000, I would like to see some of 99001 being incorporated into 9001, but I don't think that will happen. I think 99001 will stay as a British standard standalone. Again, we won't know. The 9001 was meant to come out this year, but because of a lot of clarifications that came out once, we won't know exactly what the full full content of 9001 is going to be. You can see, for example, 45,001 came out after the 9 and 14 were evaluated, and it talked about communication collaboration, whereas 99,001 talks about there's a lot of roles and responsibility in communication and how communication transpires down through different supply chains. Hopefully that answers that.
Perfect. Hopefully that's answered that. I've also just been made aware that the chat box, I don't think, is available for some delegates. So if you do have a question, please pop it into the question box rather than the chat box, and then we'll still give the question as well. And as obviously as echoed by Paul at the beginning of the webinar, if you do any questions that you come up after the webinar, send us an email, and we're more than happy to answer it after the webinar is completed. There are two more questions I can see here.
Yeah.
Go on, Paul. Go on.
I've seen one here. Does NQA
one more question?
UCAS accreditation
Yes,
for BS 99,001 has just come up. No one has, is probably the best way of putting that. NQA is part of a pilot scheme to go through. At the minute, 99,001 is uncertified, but we're in the process of doing a pilot scheme with UCAS to be certified or be able to have this accreditation certified. Again, don't know timescales on it. But it's a process that we're working on.
Cool. And also with this second question, or the penultimate question at the end, I'm sorry, from Chloe. I think you've sort of answered this before, but it also gives more context in terms of the whether you've delivered any or have any much interest or delivered many audits yet.
I know that I have potentially, I know I've got 3 booked in between now and the end of the year. And this now, number wise, and these are sort of very large contractors, is probably the best way of putting it, who would be doing multi-million frameworks for government bodies. And I think it's been a drive from that to look at it, to get it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Paul. I can't see any more questions from anyone else on the chat. On the questions, but we'll hear for a couple more minutes before we finish off at 3 p.m. So if you have any last minute questions, now is your opportunity before we finish. And hopefully by the end in 3 p.m. we'll give Paul a good break after he's been speaking about the topic for an hour.
Yeah, not used to public speaking.
You're doing just fine, Paul. Perfect. So is there any more questions before we finish off the webinar? We've got 2 more minutes. Use the chat. We've got a thank you from Chloe, a very useful session. So thank you, Chloe. I hope you found some value in it. But any more questions or thoughts or comments in the last 2 minutes before we finish? Oh, fantastic. We've got one question from Barbara. How can I get more training on this to extend my approvals? I can answer this one, actually. So Barbara, actually, the plan is to actually launch an e-learning course for NQA on this very subject. It's still in the planning stage, but the plan is hopefully we'll have one of these courses before the end of the year. So Barbara, keep an eye out for that. Anyone else who's interested in that, there's particular value in terms of actually getting a nice little certificate from NQA showing you've completed a course on the subject. So I hope that answers your question, Barbara. Any more? I think any more, and we are at 3 p.m. So I just want to say thank you very much to Paul for your time today and for delivering a wonderful webinar on this topic. But Paul, do you have anything else to say before we finish up?
No, thank you very much for attending. Hopefully it did make some sense, but there is the slides are going to be made available.
They are, yes, and the recording as well. So everyone should have access to that after the webinar is completed. But thank you very much for your time, Paul, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of the day.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.